Good morning, and thank you for joining us for day 7, our final day of our fall PowHERcircle challenge. Our theme today on day 7 is the power of constellations, harnessing our collective potential. And what a thrill and an honor it's been to hold space for some pretty incredible conversations throughout this week. So the question I'm going to ask you to keep top of mind today is, how do we best harness the collective potential of our constellation? Joining me this morning is my good friend and colleague with PowHERhouse, Christina Benty. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Christina this morning and ask her to help guide this conversation today. Thank you for being with us this morning, Christina.
Good morning. I'm absolutely thrilled. Happy Saturday, everyone. There may be some of you watching this later on in the day, but happy Saturday to everybody. All right, so we're going to do something a little bit different this morning, and that is I'm going to do a recap from my perspective of the week after watching all the videos and doing my own writing, and it'll be a pretty quick recap, and then I'm going to interview Charlene instead of her interviewing me. We're going to do it a bit differently. And Charlene, jump in when I'm doing the recap if there's anything that hit you as well. Sure. So we started last Sunday, and I loved what Catherine had to say about know thyself, right? And using 3 inspirational words to come up on a regular basis. I actually scheduled those in to show up for me and to remind me, okay, what is my future self? What am I inspired by, and how do I want to be in the world? And actually, the word be is weaved throughout all of the sessions and the conversations, right? And with Catherine, it was be intentional. So that sense of being, embodying what you want to be in the world. And then Wendy, the conversation with Wendy was about trust thyself. And I loved that as well. Trust what you know, and that you'll have access to what exists in your head and what exists in your heart. So connecting the head and heart and using your intuition to guide you. And that really spoke to me as well, because oftentimes I can be a content machine, and so I can barf content all over people if they want. And so my job is actually to not go into autopilot, but to actually really pay attention to what's kind of going on in the room and read the energy. And so with Wendy, I loved what she said. It's about being more, not doing more, right? And we're often about doing more. And how do we be in the world and be more of our. And Kelly, it was about show up for thyself, right? Lead your own life. And I actually have that on one of my business cards. Lead your own life. Be accountable, and be deliberate, be thoughtful, be accountable to yourself and to others. And keeping, it's sometimes really easy to keep promises. Keep our promises to other people, but what about keeping promises to ourselves, right? I'm going to do this, and keep that promise to yourself. I'm going to honor myself. I'm going to honor my body, my spirit, my place in the world. And with Sharon, I was trying to come up with something that. And I came up with anchor thyself in community. And so see your connectedness to everything and everyone. And I loved that, how one thing impacts another. And I read this morning. So I'm reading this book she's a quantum physicist, Margaret Wheatley. And the title of her book is Who Do We Choose to Be? Who do we choose to be in the world? And one chapter is about interconnectedness, and it says nothing living lives alone, right? And so everything that lives, we're connected to everything that lives, and including, I think, what we perceive not to be living, right? We may perceive a rock to not be living, but we're connected to rocks, and we're connected to everything. And so that interconnectedness was just beautiful. And then with Angelique, stretch thyself. Don't be afraid of resistance. And I love, Shar, the example you used of weight training. And one of my favorite books is called Anti-Fragile. And actually Anti-Fragile is about, it's kind of embodied in the bodybuilding concept, right? You deliberately go to the gym to break down a muscle. You go to the gym and you break it down, and it's rest and nutrition that actually build it back up again, and then it's stronger, and then you break it down again and it gets stronger every time. And so it's not being afraid of resistance. And one of the things I like to, and I learned this in my own practice, is that tension, you know, if you've got too much tension, an elastic will snap. Not enough tension is kind of milquetoast, but the right amount of tension, that's the birthplace of creativity, right? Just that little bit of resistance. So I loved that. And then with Jayanne yesterday, see thyself in community, right? That reciprocity, and embodying love. And I love what she said about being. She said, it's more than behavior. It's actually, again, being. So it's embodying that, that generous, that the act of generosity to yourself and to your community, and that it's reciprocal, and that it's all interconnected with love, right? And so be love, be generous. So that was my recap for the week. Which was absolutely fabulous. And Charlene, do you have anything to add? What I wanted to know from you is, how did you experience the week, and what's different for you after these brilliant conversations that you led?
Thank you. Well, I think, you know, these are all concepts that we always lightly touch on and touch over and we talk about, but I often wonder how much they really sink in, so that they actually cause behavioral shifts, right, in ourselves. And so what I was grateful for, and what I love about the work that we're doing and that we're embarking on is something that you and I have talked a lot about, and that's, how do we co-create change? So it's not, you know, for me, it's not about PowHERhouse leading the change. It's about PowHERhouse calling out to people who are also excited about change and about a higher level of leadership, and then saying to that group of people, you know, here's what we're good at. We're catalysts. You know, we'll kick you in the butt. Like we'll be that person. But we really want to co-create it, because we know that we're stronger together, and honestly, it's more fun together. So for me this week, I think what was different is it really felt, even though we've done it, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 PowHERcircles before, this one very much felt like it was a co-creation in the conversations, and not so much about, you know, me leading them. And I really appreciated that from all of the guests that showed up, from the interaction and the conversations that I've had throughout the week, and that, you know, people have been engaging in the group. So I think that was actually the biggest difference this time around, and what I really appreciated about it.
Well, and I think the fact that it came on the heels of the accelerator, I know for me, I felt different coming out of the accelerator. Like I felt quite jazzed, and it's funny because I was moving this week, and I was sharing with you, and I was in physical chaos. Like there was lots of chaos around me. But mentally, spiritually, emotionally, I felt very grounded, and this challenge really helped me to do that. And that comes back to the whole sense of being and embodying, how do I want to be in the world, and realizing it's actually a choice. And so the fact that we're co-creating a sense of being amongst ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really beautiful. And I love what you said about the fact that PowHERhouse is a catalyst, right? And that we're co-creating change, and we're elevating and accelerating, encouraging folks to come together and to be the change in the world that they want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that
Mm-hmm.
that interconnectedness, I think, is really beautiful. And that's where, love and reciprocity, all of that feeds into flow. So
Yeah. Well, I think it is actually Margaret Wheatley that has the quote, never underestimate the power of a small group of,
yes.
committed people. And I think that's exactly what the Power Circle demonstrates to me. Something that really sank in for me about what Jayanne said, and that I feel in my own work that I've done over the last, long while, is she sees the potential of how systemic nationwide solutions could move forward in a really profound way through partnerships. And she sees the only thing holding that back is our own behavior and our own mindset. So even though, you might think, well, what is a silly little, 7-day program talking about some concepts, like, what is that? What's that going to do? But honestly, the only thing holding us back from systemic lasting change is we're getting in our own way. We're continuing to say one thing and act in another. So she'll set up these important conversations that could really tackle things that need to be tackled, and then both parties will go away and do them independently. And so she's kind of like, huh, and that is really the whole impetus of the starfish effect, in that if we were really clear about who we were, our greatest gifts, where we found our most juice in the world and what we really wanted to do, and then we linked up and hooked up and anteed up, right beside the person or people within a group, within a larger, and that's the whole concept of a constellation. If we think about how vast a constellation is in space, and how well organized and how amazing it is, we're exactly the same part of that. And that's why one of the exercises today in the actual journal is for people to draw out the constellation that they are a part of. Where do you fit into your constellation, and the bigger picture of where you fit in life, and who you're working with, and what you're a part of? Where do you belong, and what is the change that group, that constellation is working towards? That's what gets me excited.
Oh, that's beautiful. And it's interesting because I loved what you said about how we're getting in our own way, and we're saying one thing and we're doing another. And our institutions are doing that. They're saying one thing and they're behaving in a completely different way. And it's so interesting for me in my own work. I was thinking about what the work that Tina does as a story tracker. And one of the things that I think I'm called to do is actually to be a story dismantler. Part of my job is dismantling stories with governing bodies on what's keeping you stuck. You're saying you value these things, and yet you're conducting yourselves in a completely different way. And so how do we embody and integrate what we want to be? How do we reflect our good intentions in our systems?
Yeah, and
it's unraveling. It's kind of unraveling the storytelling, the stories we're telling ourselves that actually keep us in our own way and out of partnership.
Yeah. And I think it's honestly just taking that small step with the people that are ready to run, and showing up as the role models and showing what is possible. Because even though it's frustrating when we take a look at, cross an organization or cross an industry or a sector, when I break it right down and I can, I try to really simplify it, and I still go back to, okay, where are my people? Where are my people in this situation? And if I can find you in politics, if I can find you, then I know that there's hope, right? Like if as long as we're clear about who we are and who we're looking for, we're like those beacons, right? And it's like, okay, where are my people? You gather those most incredible people together and start to create that momentum, because we know that positive energy is so much more exponentially powerful than negative energy. So what we might not have in numbers, we have in quality and in power. And in fact, there's that redefining of the word power. And so I don't get overwhelmed by the challenge. But I definitely am hungry for a more effective and cohesive way to work at the challenge.
Oh, yeah. I love that. And I feel like I get to have enough juicy conversations on a regular basis. I am very hopeful, right? And I feel kind of like from an energetic perspective that I get to draw in, like you said, my people. And there's that kind of that collective effect where we're not existing in our silos anymore. We're actually breaking down those silos and creating spirals, interconnected spirals of excellence. And that spiral effect is shifting out. Like I said, I'm very optimistic.
Well, I think if I had kind of a thought about, okay, well, this is all well and good. Like, what's one way to move forward? Like, what do we do with this? And I think if I could give any guidance or suggestions to the women that have engaged in this challenge, here live this morning, as well as those that watch it later. And it's funny because Kelly made a little comment just now, and it fits into this. She said, the Seven Sisters is the constellation that keeps coming up for me. And that's exactly like lines up with the thought that I wanted to share, is that the one step that any woman could take to move forward is to really understand and harness and just and really connect with I'm just gonna double check. There we go. My feedback. The circle of influence that they have. So we are all women. We're all connected. We have amazing connections and people that already are within our sphere of influence. And some of us have made that our life's purpose, making sure that we have quality connections. So the biggest way for us to create a ripple or a tsunami of change is by looking at our people and saying, okay, how am I going to catalyze or mobilize or tie into the work of PowHERhouse, or what I'm doing to complement that work, and who in my own network, in my own sphere of influence. Because what I find about women is they'll thoroughly enjoy something and it will deeply impact them, and they need to tell like 20 friends. Like that's how you create an army of change. Like I appreciate if you read a good book or something, you always tell me, oh, you need to check this out. You need to do that. Like if you find something that works for you and is shifting you, you need to tell 20 friends, not 2, 20, because we really do need to, to mobilize the amazing sphere of connections and influence that we already have. And I wonder how often we think about our networks of friends, colleagues, contacts as my sphere of influence, and what am I doing to witness within my own sphere of influence? What am I doing? How am I mobilizing them to better themselves and how they lead? That's the challenge that everybody you need is all, I will guarantee you, everyone you need to move forward individually or collectively is already in your sphere of influence. It's not someone out there that you're looking for. We just need to know how to authentically communicate and mobilize them.
Yeah, and this comes back to all of the different aspects of the challenge this week, right? Know thyself, trust thyself, show up for thyself, anchor thyself, stretch thyself, see thyself, right? Like all of those things. Be who do you want to be in the world? Be that, and yeah, don't underestimate your how you can mobilize your sphere of influence. Not only from, this comes back to like not only from an intellectual perspective, but an energetic perspective, right? Like owning your own energy in the room and being the influencer, being the one that carries the energy and actually shifts that energy in the room. How, you know, how do you want to show up? You can shift that.
Oh, for sure.
I'll share you something with you that I do on an airplane or in a meeting. I often just start breathing peace and breathing love and breathing ease and breathing connection. And those words will just flow. And all of a sudden I am having a freaking amazing conversation. I am having an unbelievable connection. I'm exchanging cards and conversating, and I'll have people say to me, I never get to have this conversation. I'm like, I get to have them all the time. And this is
yes, and I know that about you. That I think something that we could all learn from you is like expect that magic in every encounter and do something about it, right? And really invite it in. So I
have a mug here that I bought in Nova Scotia that says, what if you turned your magic all the way up? And I looked at this mug in at the farmer's market, and I looked at the woman. I was like, I need that mug. Like, and I said, I can feel the love that you poured into making this mug. And I said, she had one that was imprinted and one that was with her own writing. And I said, I want the one with your writing. I said, because I can, like, and I picked up both, and I'm like, I feel the love in this, and I'm taking this one.
Nice. Oh, so great. So great. Well, I thank you for your thoughts, for your recap, for your energy. It was the perfect finale for this PowHERcircle. And just deep gratitude to not only my team for helping to pull it together on the back end, but to all of the participants and the people that I was lucky enough to have conversations with this week. And we'll have details about, you know, what's next and how to stay together. You're so great. And thank you very much, you guys, for being live this morning. Really hope that you enjoyed our fall 2019 PowHERcircle Challenge, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Shar, for mobilizing us, right? And being a catalyst, like embodying the PowHERhouse message. We are so blessed to have that collective community, and it's so fantastic. So thank you, thank everybody that like you said, on the back end, the front end, the all sides, we're all connected, and that's so beautiful. So
awesome.
Happy Saturday, everyone.
Awesome. Happy Saturday, you guys. Bye. Thank you.